Hello and welcome back to Stream City Radio, streamcity.org, Stream City Sports. And if you're watching on the YouTube side of things, this is the final show in this series talking about comparing the conferences. And I know it's been kind of long and drawn out, but you got to show your homework if you're going to be controversial or if you're going to put forth an opinion that is not widely shared, or if you're going to, to me, bring some facts. I've had people jump on and, say everybody knows the Big Ten is the best. Okay, do they really? I've had people say, oh, everybody knows the SEC is the best. Do they really? Here's the thing. Numbers can be manipulated if you only look at certain numbers. But if you look at a wider variety of numbers, the numbers are the numbers. And what we've got as we break into this final section of this show is the bottom half of all the conferences and how did they fare. And like I said, the perception out there is that the Big Ten is the best conference and it's taken over in place of the SEC. And the Big Ten is three-time champion. I mean, hats off. You have done very, very well in the playoffs. You are running the playoffs right now. Doesn't make you the best conference top to bottom, and that's the debate we're having here. Let's not get it twisted. That's two different conversations. The SEC is not as dominant as it was. That's a given. But that doesn't mean it's not the best conference. Now, coming into the bottom half of this, the SEC has a little bit of a lead. Big 12 was the best in the very top tier, which was a little surprising to me. The Big 10 and the SEC right behind them. The SEC slightly a percentage point ahead of the Big 10, so pretty much a dead heat between the two of them. In the top set, the ACC was well behind. In that next section, the middle quarter, the top middle, I guess you could put it, teams 4 through 8 or 4 through 9, depending on how many teams are in your conference. The SEC was dominant. Now, in the Big 12 and the Big 10 were neck and neck. The Big 12 with a slight lead on the Big 10. So, will that continue? Will the ACC stay as far in the basement as they've been? Because they have been fully in the basement. It's not been close. And I take that back. The Big 10 had a slight lead over the Big 12 in Tier 3 and 4. 2 percentage points. Just to recap it, in case you didn't see the first segment, the Big 12 was the best in the top tier with a 3.2. SEC had 2.8. Big 10 had a 2.7. ACC had a 1.7. That's out of 4. Got 9 categories that we're pulling data points from. You get 4 points for having the top, 3 points for being the second, 2 for being the third, 1 for coming up in last. So your average, that's your average. I don't want to go back too far into all that because then we won't have any time to finish the show up. Or we will have stuff left to do. Anyhow, this is Tier 3 of 4. So we're talking about the top of the bottom. Or in the SEC, this would be team 9 through 12. Same for the Big 12. In the ACC, it would be 10 through 13. And in the Big 10, it would be 11 through 14. So we're leaving 4 for the very bottom. So you got more teams. We had to figure out a way to do that. So that's what we did. Put them in the middle. The extra teams went in the middle. So here we go. Actual record for the SEC in Tier 3 was 9-3. They won 75% of their games. ACC was behind them at 8-4, 67%. Big 10, 7-4 with 64%, and the Big 12, 5-3 at 63%. So SEC number 1, not a huge margin though. When you're talking from first to last, it's 12-point differential. It's not a big difference. And, you're talking about 1 percentage point between the Big 10 and the Big 12. So not a big difference there. Your actual record against the Power 4 teams. SEC was 3-2. Big 12 and Big 10 come in tied at 50%, but the Big 12 played 6 games. They're 3-3. The Big 10 played 2. They're 1-1. The ACC comes in last at 2-3. Actual record against group of 5 teams for these teams. This Tier 3 group. Big 12, 2-0. SEC, 6-1. ACC, 6-1. Big 10, 6-3. So it was Big 12, ACC, and SEC tied. Big 10 coming in last. Now, weighted record for those of you just joining the class. Weighted record is we factored in the differential in the teams. We put everybody in a tier, factored in, gave you lost or gained points from starting at the point of 12, according to how far or behind you were, lower or higher tier. Then you can make them up by scoring points and winning the games and so on and so forth. So that's how we came up with all that. So the weighted record for the SEC, they lose a little bit. It's 8-3-1 as one of the games. If you ended up, both teams had a 12, that's a push. The Big 10 went to 6-4-1. The Big 12 went to 4-4. The ACC went to 6-6. So SEC 1, Big 10 2, Big 12, and ACC same percentage, sitting at third. Weighted record against the Power 4. SEC was 70%, 3-1-1. Big 12 was 3-3, 50%. The Big 10 was 1-1, 50%. Same for both of them, the same as the non-weighted. And then the ACC at 40% with a 2-3 record. So it didn't change things a lot. The SEC went from 3-2 to 3-1-1. In weighted record against the group of 5, the SEC went 5-2-1. Big 10 was 5-3-1. ACC 4-3, and the Big 12 was 1-1. So that's the group of 5. Yeah, that's a group of 5. So Big 12, for instance, went from 2-0 to 1-1. Everybody changed a little bit. Nobody changed a ton. Well, the ACC actually did. The ACC went from 6-1 to 4-3, and that's what we've seen happening a lot with the ACC. Is they're winning these games, but they're underperforming in games that they win, and then they've had some really bad outings in games they lost. So point totals, which will be our 7th point on this thing. The Big 12 came in first, 14.1. The ACC was actually second at 13.2. The Big 10, 12.9. The SEC came in last, 12.8. Now, percentage points different, but Big 12 coming in first, a little bit of a surprise. Now, when we shift to points against the Power 4, the Big 12 gets even better. They're 14.3. The ACC drops a little bit, 13. The SEC drops a little bit to 12. Big 10 drops a bunch from 12.9 to 8. 12 being the median point. So the SEC basically broke even in this group against the power teams. Power groups against the group of 5. The Big 10 makes up some ground, and we've seen this trend a lot. The Big 10 will do a lot better against the group of 5 than they are against the power teams. They get 14. The Big 12 second, 13.5. The SEC 13.3. The ACC 13.3. So everybody above board on that. But how does that play out with the actual, where does that place everybody? The SEC finished first in 5 of those data points. They, let's see, they finished, one time they finished in second place, 2 times in third place, and 1 they brought up the bottom of the barrel. The Big 12 went 3 in first, 3 in second, 1 in third, 2 in last. Big 10, 1 in first, 3 in second, 3 in third, 2 in last. ACC, none in first, 4 in second, which is by far the best they've done in any of these. 3 in the third place position, and 2 in the final position. So the SEC wins it with a 3.3 out of 4, but not a huge. I mean, it's 12.8, half a point over the Big 12, and a full point over the Big 10, and then the ACC another tenth of a point behind at 2.2. So it's 3.3, 2.8, 2.3, 2.2, and the SEC comes out on top and stretches their lead a little bit. And how did the conferences do against each other? The Big 12 went 3-0 against the ACC. The SEC went 3-2 against the ACC. That's the one thing we are seeing. The ACC is competing pretty well head-to-head against the ACC, or against the SEC rather, even though the overall numbers are not turning out great for the ACC. The Big 12, when we weight this thing, same, 3-0. The SEC didn't do, actually did a little better. They ended up 3-1-1. The Big 10, only one game against group outside of this. The Big 12 went 0-1 against the Big 10. And 0-1 once it's weighted. Actual against the Big 12, the ACC went 0-1, did not change. Big 10 went 1-1. And the reason these numbers are not the same, and that kind of, don't let that, it's what did the other conferences do against teams in this category. So in other words, there were 2 teams, the Big 10 played 2 teams out of Tier 3 for the Big 12. The Big 12 only played 1 team out of Tier 3. So if that, it's kind of weird, but it does, the math does work. The SEC actuals, the Big 12 went 0-2 against the SEC. The ACC went 2-1, did not change once it was weighted. Exactly the same. So after 3 rounds, the SEC's leading. The ACC is in last place, and the Big 10 and the Big 12 are almost in dead heat as we look at this whole thing. Final set of data points to look at. And I know if you're not a number nerd, I probably lost you a long time ago. Probably lost you, but that's fine. To me, it was important to break this down because I can make any argument I want, but I didn't want to make an emotional argument. I wanted to make an argument based in fact. And I, to be honest with you, I didn't know what I'd come up with. I hadn't looked at this at all before we started pulling numbers and putting this thing together. I told you what my impressions were, but I never, but these numbers could have changed all that. And they still could. We've got one more round to make up if the SEC falls flat on its face in the Tier 4, then the Big 12 and the Big 10 are not so far behind that they couldn't catch up. Or one of them at least. One of them would have to do outstanding to catch the SEC at this point, but it could happen. Actual record for Tier 4 teams overall is 7-2 for the Big 10, 78%. 9-3 for the SEC, 75%. 4-4 for the Big 12, 50%. ACC 2-10. Actual record against other Power 4 teams. SEC was 3-2 at 60%. Big 12 was 2-2 at 50%. The Big 10 1-2 at 33%. The ACC 0-8. Not good. Actual record for G5 teams. Producer Blue in the background. Actual record for the Tier 4 teams against a group of 5. Big 10 went 6-0. And we've seen this. This is an ongoing thing. Not great against the power teams. Really good against a group of 5. SEC went 6-1. 86%. Big 12 went 2-2, as did the ACC. Both at 50%. Once you make it a weighted record, the SEC jumps to the top of this at 8-2-2. The Big 12 comes in second at 5-2-1 at 69%. The Big 10 falls to third, 56%. The ACC comes in last, a little bit better than what they did straight up. It's a 3-8-1 record, 29% for the ACC, so about 12 points better than what they did just straight up. Weighted record against the Power Four, the Big 12 jumps into the top. 3-1, 75%. The SEC in second at 3-2, 60%. The ACC 1-6-1, 19%. The Big 10 falls to 0-3. So they went from 1-2 to 0-3. Weighted record against the Group of Five, the SEC still on top at 86. The Big 10 jumps back up at 83. So almost a dead heat there. The Big 12 at 63%, 2-1-1, and the ACC at 2-2 coming in last. So once again, let's pull those numbers and see where everybody ranks out. Points-wise, the SEC had a 16.3. The Big 10 had a 14.9. The Big 12 averaged a 12.4, so just above break even. The ACC at 8.6, well below it again. Points against the Power Four. The Big 12 jumps to the top here. Big 12 did well against the Power Four teams. 14.3, the ACC 13. The SEC broke even at 12, and the Big 10 down at 8. Points-wise, how did these teams do? The SEC at 16.3 was number one. Big 10, 14.9 was 2. Big 12, 12.4, just above median. And then the ACC bringing in another bad number at 8.6. Against the Power 4 teams, the Big 12 jumps past the SEC. It's almost a dead heat. It's 13.5, the SEC at 13.4. The Big 10, a 10.3. The ACC, a 7.1. Terrible number again. Against the Group of Five, the SEC jumps way up at 18.3. The Big 10 right behind them at 17.2. Big 12, 11.3. And the ACC, 11.3. As both of them fall below the median point. And where does that put us when we look at placement? The SEC, once again, 5 times they finished first. 4 times they finished second. The Big 12 finished second. First 2 times, second twice, third 5 times. The Big 10 had 2 first-place finishes, 3 second-place finishes, 3 third-place finishes, and 1 fourth-place finish. The ACC had 3 third-place finishes and 6 fourth-place finishes, bringing it in at a total of the SEC at a 3.6, the Big 12 at a 2.8, the Big 10 at a 2.7, the ACC at a 1.3. How did they do against each other actually? Against the ACC, the Big 12 went 2-1, the Big 10 went 1-0, the SEC went 1-1. With a weighted schedule, the Big 12 actually did a little bit better against the ACC. They went 3-0. The Big 10 actually goes from a win to a loss. They go 0-1, and nothing changes with the SEC. The Big 10 schools, when the Big 12 went 0-1, as did the ACC against the Big 10. Stayed the same for them once we weighted it. ACC flips to the positive side. Against the Big 12, the ACC went 0-2, the SEC went 2-0. Once you weight it, nothing changed. SEC, the ACC went 0-3 against the SEC's Tier 4 teams. The Big 10 went 0-1. The Big Ten's Tier 4 teams went 0-1. That would be Wisconsin. Threw me for a minute. Weighted, it didn't change. Okay, so all that said, all those numbers thrown out there. Where do we come up with? The overall score for the SEC with 36 data points. The SEC finished first in 20 of those. Second with 9 times, third 6 times, and last once for a 3.5 out of 4. The Big 12 finished first 11 times, 8 times they were second, 13 times they were third, 4 times they were last for a 2.8. The Big Ten finished first 8 times, second 15 times, third 8 times, and last 5 times for 2.6. The ACC, 1 first place, 5 third places, 5 second places, 9 third places, and 21 times they finished last. Almost the inverse of what the SEC did for a 1.6. So I said coming into this, this doesn't change that the Big Ten is ruling the playoffs for the last couple of years. That's a given. I mean, it can't be argued. Come playoff time, it has fallen the Big Ten's way. They've been the champions 3 years running. Can't take anything away from them. But the argument and not that you can't have an argument, but the arrogance to say it's not even close. Well, yeah, it's not. The SEC is still way out in front of the Big Ten. What is close is they're almost as good as the Big 12. Let that sink in for a minute. Their numbers came in below the Big 12. 3 out of 4 categories they finished below the Big 12 and end up 0.2 of a point behind them with a 2.6. And the ACC was as bad as we thought it was. The only place that they really held up was the very top, and not even when you took the top quarter, really only when you took the top couple teams did they really hold up against everybody else. And the ACC's got some work to do. I think what we can take away from, and this all goes back to, and this is why we see the Big Ten making strides, because a couple of years ago, Big Ten was a mess after the top teams. But we saw how the SEC built itself. It was Alabama and a couple other teams jumping out to way out in front of everybody, and it's like a race. If the guy leading the pack's really fast, everybody else is going to get faster trying to catch up to him. And that's what you saw happen in the SEC. You're now starting to see it happen in the Big Ten, where you've got some really strong teams out there. Instead of being really good records, but kind of mediocre, which is what the Big Ten had been, now those teams are legitimately good teams, and now you're going to see the rest of the Big Ten try and catch up. You're kind of seeing that happen in the Big 12 as well. The difference in the Big 12 is you've got more turnover in who those teams are. There is more balance, I think, in the Big 12 than there is in the Big 10, and that's why they finished slightly ahead of the Big Ten in this. It's not that, as the conference goes, I think the top of the Big Ten's a little bit better, even though these numbers didn't necessarily say that. It's still very close. I just think that, but the argument that the Big Ten has passed the SEC for dominance for the regular season conference games, no, they haven't. And the numbers bear that out. And when you look at the actual record of these teams, the ACC's record against the SEC was actually the best. 6-4. They won. The SEC was 6-4 against the ACC. Won 60% of their games. The Big Ten won 66% of theirs. The Big 12 won 86% of theirs. When you weight it, it changes a little bit. The SEC wins 65%. The Big Ten drops to 33%. And the Big 12 goes to 100%. And to me, that's where we're seeing the problem with the Big Ten as we jump over and look at the Big Ten. The problem for the Big Ten is they're not really performing against the power conferences. They are come bowl time, but bowl time is garbage time. The teams aren't the same. Coaches are gone. It's not the same as the regular season, and that's why thumping your chest these days over what happened in the bowl games is ridiculous. Now, the playoffs are a different story, and they've been very good there. But in the actual record for the Big Ten, the SEC was 2-1 against the Big Ten. The ACC was 1-2 against the Big Ten. The Big 12 was 500 against them. But when you put the weighted record onto it, the SEC is 3-0. The ACC is 2-1. The Big 12 doesn't change. It's still 2-2. Once again, talking to how close those two conferences are. For the Big 12, very similar to the what happened with the Big 10, the SEC is 3-0 in both, this time both in the actual and the weighted record. Now, where they really made hay was against the ACC, where the ACC was only 1-6 against the Big 10 and 0-7 when you went weighted. And the Big 10, as we said, didn't change, 2-2, 2-2. So when you look at all of this and you come back around to the SEC, winning 60% of their games against the ACC, winning 67% of their games against the Big 10, and 100% of their games against the Big 12 in the regular season, does not speak to the Big 12 being dominant about anything. When you weight it, the ACC actually gets a little closer. Or no, I'm sorry, the SEC stretches out a little bit. They go with 65%, but 100% over the Big 10 and 100% over the Big 12. So slow your roll a little bit, Big 10. You're getting better. There's no doubt about it, and you've been dominant in playoffs. But when we talk top to bottom, number 18-1 or number 16 to number 1, the SEC is still the best conference. And you are almost as good as the Big 12. And the ACC has got a lot of work to do. There you go. That's the show. Kill me in the comments. But the math's the math. And the people who are going to just read the shorts and kill me, you're like the kid with the box of giant jumbo crayons in first grade. You can color, but that's about it. You're not digging deep. Dig deep. Come at me with some facts. I'm conceding to you, you're the best in the playoffs the last couple of years. No doubt about it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Second half will, if you're on the radio, will drop tomorrow at 6. First half drops this afternoon at 6. Enjoy your day, my friends.